Greetings. It is the 1368th day of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine. This is the news broadcast from the Rada channel team. My name is Olha Budko. Let's begin. Day of Remembrance for the victims of the Holodomor. Every year, on the fourth Saturday of November, Ukraine honors the memory of the victims of the communist genocide, the Holodomors of 1932-33, and the mass artificial famines of 1921-23 and 1946-47. These are already the fourth anniversaries being marked under the conditions of Russia's full-scale genocidal war against Ukraine. Usually in Kiev, people go to the National Holodomor Museum, bring ears of grain and bread to the memorial, and light candles in memory of those who died from hunger. They also light a candle at home on the windowsill. This act is called Candle in the Window. It was conceived more than 20 years ago by James Mace, an American historian and researcher of the Holodomor in Ukraine. Today, more than 30 countries around the world have recognized the Holodomor as a genocide of the Ukrainian people. The number of people killed as a result of the strike on Ternopil has increased. This was reported by the regional police. Last night, the body of another woman was found under the rubble. At present, the number of fatalities stands at 32, including 6 children. In addition, 94 people have been injured, 18 of whom are children. Let me remind you, the Russian attack on Ternopil took place on November 19th. 2 9-story residential buildings were damaged. In one of them, the destruction occurred from the 3rd to the 9th floors, while in the other, 2 entrances were completely burned out. A woman was injured as a result of the occupiers' attack in the Ternopil district of Zaporizhzhia region. This was reported on social media by the head of the Zaporizhzhia Regional Military Administration, Ivan Fedorov. Over the course of the day, the Russians carried out more than 500 strikes on 18 settlements in the region. In particular, the enemy carried out 2 air raids on Ternopil. 2 people were killed and 5 others were injured. These are the consequences of enemy attacks on the Nikopol and Kryvyi districts of Dnipropetrovsk region, according to the State Emergency Service. Rescuers evacuated 2 more injured people from the danger zone, provided first aid and handed them over to medical personnel. As a result of the shelling, a farm caught fire and apartment buildings, a store, private homes and outbuildings were damaged. The current pressure on Ukraine is the heaviest, and the country itself may soon face a difficult choice: to lose a key partner or to lose its dignity. This was stated by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in his address to the Ukrainian people on the occasion of the Day of Dignity and Freedom. He added that the national Ukrainian interest must be taken into account, and Ukraine will seek a constructive search for solutions with our main partner, the United States. The enemy will not be given any arguments to accuse Ukraine of disrupting the peace negotiation process. Although the coming days will be extremely difficult,
I will work hard and fight to ensure that at least 2 important points are not omitted from the entire plan. These are the dignity and freedom of Ukrainians, because everything else is based on this: our sovereignty, our independence, our land, our people, and the Ukrainian future. We will and must do everything so that, in the end, the war comes to an end. But not Ukraine, not Europe, and not global peace. The coming week will be very challenging and full of events. You are a mature, intelligent, and conscious people who have proven this more than once, and who understand that during this time there will be a lot of pressure, political, informational, and of various kinds, to weaken us.
Volodymyr Zelensky discussed the details of the American proposals regarding a possible format for ending the war and further steps to achieve lasting peace in a phone conversation with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. They spoke for almost an hour. The Ukrainian leader emphasized that Kyiv is considering the White House's proposals and is working to ensure that any further course of action is acceptable and effective for both sides. Sanctions against Russian oil will remain in place during the discussion of the American peace plan. U.S. President Donald Trump stated this in a Fox News podcast. According to him, the United States will not do anything regarding the lifting of sanctions in the near future. Trump called them very powerful and said that they would seriously complicate the sale of Russian oil. The government has decided to provide compensation for destroyed housing located in temporarily occupied territories. This was announced by Oleksiy Kuleba, Deputy Prime Minister for the Restoration of Ukraine and Minister for Communities and Territories Development, at the National Forum on Resilience and Good Governance. About 150,000 families have already received compensation under the e-renovation program. The total amount of payments is 53 billion hryvnias. Kuleba emphasized that those Ukrainians who have not left the country will be able to receive the funds. Later, this opportunity will also be provided for other categories of the population. For the verification of data regarding lost property, only the person's place of registration will be taken into account.
Here the issue is not about where the person is located. The point is that it is important for us that the money is spent within the territory of Ukraine, and that a person who wants to either purchase housing, whether new or existing, or take out a mortgage, again with additional preferences, does all of this within our country. And there is one more thing I really wanted to mention. This is a very important issue. Alexander Kachur. For verification, we use only the person's place of registration because we understand and know how difficult it is now to actually confirm various documents of property ownership. That is why, as of today, we have chosen this approach. This is an experimental resolution, but we are confident that it will be very effective and that we will be able to support our people and in this way encourage them to return to Ukraine.
And more than 140? This is how many communities from the Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk and Poltava regions have signed memorandums to join the Association of Frontline Cities and Communities. They did this during the forum Life Next to the Frontline. This time the association held it in Dnipro. The documents were signed in order to jointly address the problems of frontline territories. Which problems exactly and how will they be addressed? Find out more in the following report.
Reporter, the Mazhivska community, located in Sinelnikivshchina, is one of those that joined the Association of Frontline Cities. It is located 15 kilometers from the front line. As the front approaches, the number of problems in the community only increases, says its head.
Volodymyr Chernetsky. These are, of course, healthcare and education. Today, people live in the area, so they have the right to, can receive services, but they are not receiving them, and this issue needs to be addressed. There is a problem with the operation of healthcare institutions. Currently, their activities have been suspended, and the state has effectively stopped funding such institutions. And we need to understand that after the war ends, we won't simply be able to bring back the people who are already leaving today. So, it's necessary to somehow incentivize the work of these people.
The shortage of doctors is one of the main problems in the healthcare sector of frontline communities, according to the Ministry of Health. They say they are trying to encourage doctors not to leave their jobs.
Alexander, starting next year, starting January 1st, we will increase funding for primary medical care, emergency medical care. This year, for territories that are active or potentially involved in hostilities, we have already introduced special financial instruments so that there is an additional payment for doctors, nurses, and other medical workers who work in areas of active combat.
Reporter, and for internally displaced persons from frontline regions, benefits and support programs are being introduced, they add, at the Ministry of Social Policy. Most of these can be used not only by IDPs, but also by socially vulnerable groups of the population.
Alexander Kovalenko, this is the purchase of solid fuel for the 10-kilometer zone. For everyone else as well, there are about 32,000 families who receive benefits and subsidies, which we have additionally provided. And it is also possible to buy solid fuel to heat your home during this period. In addition, there is a program for electricity where we provide each family, each person with 100 kilowatts, but this is given in cash so that they can cover their needs.
Reporter, all citizens from frontline areas need government support, say representatives of the association.
Alexander Sukrenchuk. It's impossible to just say, here is the money and that's it. And what if there's nowhere for the child to study, or if there's no way to ensure the child is in safe conditions at kindergarten, or if there's no work? These are a series of issues. If there's nowhere to live, nowhere for the wife or husband to work, then there will be nothing at all.
Reporter, to address these issues together, more than 350 communities from frontline regions have already signed memorandums to join the Association of Frontline Cities and Communities. Nikol Salic, Yuri Smirnov, Rada TV channel, National Marathon, United News.
Announcer, that's all for now. Next, the broadcast will be continued by the 1+1 media team with the morning program Morning Marathon hosted by Valentina Komaiko, Alexander Popov and Ihor Tsihanik.